is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
The Luigi Mangione hearings that started last week continue this week to determine whether prosecutors have a case against him. For the first time, we saw body cam footage, or at least images of the body cam footage from inside the Altoona McDonald's. Officers approaching Mangione at a back table. The moment he pulls down his mask, the fake ID, the backup flooding in with Christmas music playing. We heard about the 911 call from the manager. We saw photos of what was in the backpack, the ghost gun, the silencer, the manifesto, the cash. The defense wants all of it thrown out. If they succeed, prosecutors lose the weapon, the writings, the motive, and everything Mangione said to police and corrections officers. They'll be left trying to prove the assassination with surveillance footage and some fingerprints on a water bottle. If all that gets thrown out. Will all that get thrown out? Well, that's the big question. Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, is with us. She has been tracking this case from the very beginning. She knows what's in the evidence pile. She's been watching the footage. She understands what's on the line as Judge Caro decides what stays and what goes. So let's just begin with what we've been learning this last week and what's going to be going in to this week. We finally saw the body cam footage, or at least images from the body cam footage and the latest stills. Walk me through what stood out to you with all this. What did Mangione's behavior in that McDonald's with the officers and the patrons that were rather alarmed tell you about where his head was at?
Well, I really believe that Luigi, of course, did not want to be found in any way, shape, or form. That's why he presented that fake ID. That's why, according to the officer, his hands were literally shaking. He was all masked up at a time when nobody was masking really much at that time at all, certainly not in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and hooded up too. Really, all you could see that was the giveaway were those eyebrows.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody, Brian Koberger. So again, I think he was terrified and really surprised he was found.
What about the fact that he went for 5 days here around the country? He was connected. He had family. He had a lot of friends. He had he wasn't just like some weird loner out there by himself. Now, there had been, some issues with family here and there, but the fact that for 5 days the country knew who they were looking for, it was pretty clear who this guy was. We didn't necessarily know his name yet by any means, but what does it say to you about those 5 days and it ending up being found at a McDonald's back in the corner?
Well, I think he definitely had somewhat of a very good exit plan for getting out of New York, obviously, because he got out of New York. But from there, it seemed like his plan really straggled. He wasn't sure exactly where he was going or what he was doing. But I think he did a nice job staying below the radar, right? Staying in small towns where even after the call comes in that they think they have Luigi Mangione, they say specifically the CEO or the New York assassin, that nobody believes it, and they start him-hawing and cracking up and making bets about Subways or sandwiches. Sorry.
Yeah. Subways and sub sandwich. Yeah. No. You'll get you a hoagie if it's actually him. That was interesting that they didn't really believe it was going to be the guy. And I mean, I'm sure plenty. I bet there would be a lot of stories around the country from a lot of people, a lot of officers at that moment in time responding to suspected calls of, we think this might be Luigi Mangione, especially in that part of the country too. I mean, you have a heavy Italian population just outside of New York in that area. Folks who may resemble Luigi Mangione. It would be probably fairly common to have that call to, but to actually be there and go, oh God, this is the guy. I mean, basically what he said is when he pulled down the mask, he knew it was the man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. I mean, he has a very unique face and look, actually, even though, quite frankly, I've seen on social media, there's another kid that looks almost exactly like him. He's got a lot of doppelgangers or, very close lookalikes out there. But certainly that police officer was convinced it was him the minute that mask came down.
I'm really surprised that he didn't go get those brows waxed. I mean, he's walking around looking like Eugene Levy, and everybody's going to recognize him, I would think. But, he really didn't do anything to change his appearance.
No, not too much. I think he thought that just being in the hood, meaning not in the hood, but in a hood, disguised him enough, that and the mask. The problem was this is no longer the era or time of COVID. And that's really hurt him. I think if it would have been the time of COVID, it might have been much longer before he was ever discovered. But you can see this was his MO from the beginning. I'm glad you put up these photos because these were the initial photos of him seen on surveillance cameras at various stores. And you can see it's almost the same minus the mask.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He did, like Stacey just said, he didn't do a whole lot to change his appearance. This is someone who obviously thinks his opinions matter a hell of a lot more than others, who thinks that, he's this justice warrior, that he's out there doing this. And if you look at his social media prior to this, he's a narcissist. He's one who's very obsessed with his looks. He presents a very specific look at me. Look how pretty I am. How much do you think that ego played into him not changing his look, where he's just too pretty? He doesn't want to alter how good he looks if that's in lieu of him getting caught. I wonder how much the vanity angle of this prevented him from doing what almost anyone else, I think, in this situation would do, and dramatically change the way you look so you don't get caught. That didn't seem to be an option that registered for him.
Exactly. You got $7,000 in your pocket. How about buy a blue jacket? How about shave your head? How about shave your face, trim up those eyebrows, just get a totally different appearance as best you can. Even dye your hair, something. Pull a Scott Peterson, but he did nothing, and he certainly had the means. And with all of these people, I always say this isn't about the crime. This isn't about their cause. At the end of the day, it's about them and bringing themselves up to this level of, look at me, I'm some sort of hero, I'm some sort of martyr. But isn't the irony great right now? This is the irony. He's so flippin' rich, from such a rich family, and he's got money pouring in. He's got the best attorneys money can buy. He's going to spend millions on these cases. And you know what? He isn't about the little people, the people who can't get health care. If he would have done this, if he would have said, I'm not taking any donations, I'm not taking my mom's wealth, I'm getting a federal public defender, I don't want any more money, I would have had more respect for than what he's doing, which is really living the life he's always lived. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How about, instead of killing the CEO, maybe donating some of that money to help people get the health care they need? I mean, he took it so far in one direction. Instead of doing good with the power that he had, he just decided to shoot some guy who, as tragic as it is, he's just a cog in the wheel. The wheel continues on. He didn't do anything. He didn't change the world.
No, but he got a lot of attention to himself.
That's right. And Stacey, at the end of the day, that's what he really cared about. There is no way he was a disaster after his Ivy League education, right? Mm-hmm. He couldn't stay in the workforce. Instead, he decided to just use his parents' money to travel throughout the world and live it up. I mean, that's what he really did. He had that job. It didn't work out. This was a guy that wasn't willing to put in the work necessary to himself maybe become a CEO and manage a healthcare company, right? He had all the bona fides. Yeah,
like if you really want to change something, then get in there and change something. this is not the way to change something. A lot of criticism here about the Altoona PD and how they handled finding the most wanted man in America at that time eating a hash brown in the corner. What's your thoughts on how all of that went down, from the talking for 20 minutes before any sort of Miranda rights or Mirandas are given? Give me your thoughts on how all that played out, because there's a lot of talk about that right now.
Yeah, so let's first just talk about Miranda. A lot of people think they literally think of Law and Crime or these other, television shows. We don't come in typically and go, FBI, you're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. That is so movies. Why?
Yeah.
Because typically what invokes Miranda are two things. It's a two-pronged test. One, are they in custody or can they leave? Is it just a temporary detention? Number two, are you questioning them? I think people often mix up spontaneous utterances made by an individual when they're in custody and questioning an individual. Obviously, when they first went up to him, they didn't even know if it was going to be him, and in fact, didn't think it was going to be him. So they needed to ask for identification. They needed to ask a lot of those general questions. Now, we know that the more seasoned officer, right? There were two officers. The initial officer was a 6-month, I think, trainee, and the other one was more seasoned. And he said he knew that once he took the mask down, it was him. So at that point, in my view, as a police officer, I know there's no way in hell I'm letting him go. So he's under arrest, or he's going to be under arrest. So I know at that point, I really can't ask questions, and I don't want to ask questions. I want the detectives who are trained to ask questions, not the patrol guy. I want that to happen in a controlled environment, and that's where normally you Mirandize for the first time. You get them to sign a piece of paper and everything else.
Mangione gave a fake ID at first, and then they said, hey, there's like real consequences for giving a fake ID.
Right.
And then he just immediately pushes back. He doesn't go, well, that's me. He's like, you're right. My real name is this. Like, not even much pushing at all. Just pretty much like, hey, we caught you in an act, not saying that you're this guy or that guy, but what's going on here? He has a backpack with a gun. He's got cash. He's got all this stuff on him. What's your read on his behavior of just how quickly he just kind of gave into, the jig is up on who he is?
Well, and I'll say this, judging from not only dealing with people like this in the past, but then on the characteristics we know about Mangione. First of all, this is not a hardened criminal. This is his first rodeo. This is somebody who knows he's got the ghost gun in his bag. He's got his manifesto, if we even want to call it that, in his bag. We've got bullets. We've got everything needed to show that he's guilty, 7,000 on his person. And I think he's like, you're right, you got me. I mean, he's not stupid. There was nothing he could say to get out of it at that point, and he knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still kind of surprised by it. Are you surprised he didn't give any sort of pushback, though? That it just seemed very transactional for something like this, for someone who's fleeing, that they're just like, yep, you guys want to McDouble before we head out of here?
You know what? When I look at him, though, he looks ragged and worn down. I was trying to think, how much sleep did he get? Remember, this all started so many days in advance of this. He's not in his normal environment. He's living in a hostel. He's hunting down a guy, conducting surveillance. And then afterwards, he's on the run. He's getting probably very little sleep, very little to eat. He looks horrible when he's arrested, quite frankly. Gaunt. They said he was shaking. I think he mentally and physically was pretty much at the brink. I'll also say this, for those of you who might not have noticed, take a look at his photo when and I pointed this out, take a look at this photo when he's first arrested in there. He wet himself.
What?
And I'll tell you what, yep, take a look at it. And I'll tell you what, that doesn't surprise me at all. I can't tell you how many people I've arrested that wet themselves right when you arrest them, because it's like this fight or flight, and they're so terrified and they wet themselves. It happens all the time. It's not unusual. And it was one of the first thing I looked at. When you look in the room where he's being kept, you'll see the wet stain all around that area. And I'm telling you, it's not unusual. It's not unusual with people who fight too. Yep, that's the one I'm talking about. Take a look.
Oh my God.
No way.
Yes way. And it's not unusual. I know you guys are like, oh no, but this is not unusual. It was one of the first thing I looked for. Let's see, did he wet himself? He's a new criminal. He's an Ivy Leaguer. He's never been in jail before. His whole life is crashing down before him. He's exhausted. I bet you he wet himself. And sure enough, I looked and I'm like, yeah, he sure did.
Is that usually, is that a pretty sure sign that you got the right guy if they wet themselves?
Well,
I mean, or does that happen with folks who are not the right guy, where later it turns out this isn't the right guy? They're just really nervous and scared, and they wet, or does it tend to be more of a sign of, yeah, that's the guy?
Tony, I've never not arrested the right guy, so I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah,
I can tell you that so many people you arrest wet themselves.
Shit.
Not usual. It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
I was trying to think of all the first arrest I ever made. It was a female. She wet herself. I can think there's too many to count, but just let's say 10% or more wet themselves.
I've really learned something today. I had no idea that even was a thing. I mean,
there's our headline: Luigi Mangione wet himself.
Yeah,
there's our title.
I pointed it out when he literally the day I saw that photo. So the day that came out, I was like, yep, he wet himself.
Wow. I'm just kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of taken aback by that. I can't say I've ever wet myself in any shocking, scary, stressful situation that I've been in. Never been like on the run after murdering someone. Exactly. But that's just, it seems like that's a choice. It's like, I don't know. I've never been in a situation where I'm like, I just can't control this.
Well,
I look forward to being 80 and maybe having that experience at some point. But I just, at 20 something, to not be able to control that really.
He probably didn't even know what happened till after it happened. It's a complete fear, involuntary response, fight or flight response. Yeah. And Tony and Stacey and Todd, you've never been likely fighting for your life, seeing life flash before you, thinking you're going to go to prison or get the death penalty. It was a, come to Jesus moment for him.
Wow.
I did it when I was in kindergarten, but that was because we were learning how to distinguish coins, and that was scary to me. So I think Jennifer's right. In a bad situation, you just let it fly.
So now if you saw like a penny, because you're like, we got more pennies.
He's triggered.
Todd's just like, oh God, fuck, I got to change my pants.
It's always fascinating too. You just want to get him out of those clothes. You're having to handle them. You have to frisk them. You got to put your hands in their pockets. It's just a mess. It's just gross.
A lot of gloves.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.